You dream big, but your energy runs out before you start. You plan 1,000 things but barely move an inch. People call it laziness, but what if they're wrong? What if your so-called laziness is actually misused ambition? If you've ever felt like you're meant for more but can't seem to take the first step, keep watching. This might just change the way you see yourself forever. You wake up with big ideas in your head. Plans, visions, a silent promise that today will be different. But hours pass and nothing really happens. You move through the day like a ghost drifting between tasks that never get done. The list of things you could achieve grows longer, but the energy to begin stays locked inside you. It feels like something is broken, something invisible and heavy sitting on your chest. But you can't explain it, not even to yourself. You want more. You know you're capable of more. Yet you're stuck. This isn't laziness in the way people describe it. This is something else. A strange kind of tension between your potential and your reality. You're not uninterested. You care deeply. Maybe too deeply. That's part of the problem. The moment you imagine success, your mind floods with everything required to get there, and it overwhelms you. Your ambition doesn't push you forward. It freezes you. Every task feels like a mountain, even the small ones. The pressure builds until avoidance becomes the only way out. You scroll, you distract yourself, you disappear into routines that don't move you an inch closer to where you want to be. On the outside, it looks like procrastination. But beneath it, there's a storm. You're not doing nothing. You're overthinking everything. Constantly imagining all the ways you might fail. All the things that could go wrong. The hundreds of steps ahead before you even take one. So you stay still, not because you don't care, but because you care so much it paralyzes you. That's a hard truth to admit. It's easier to believe you're just lazy, that something is wrong with your discipline. But the truth is more complicated and more human. This mental trap is something no one talks about. It's not about lacking willpower. It's about carrying too much weight in your mind at once. The weight of expectations, perfection, comparison, fear. The weight of your own imagination running too far ahead. You're playing a game with yourself, dreaming of the destination while dreading the journey. And in that tug-of-war, nothing moves. The most ambitious people are often the ones who feel stuck the most, because their minds are constantly in the future, while their feet are planted in cement. There's also shame. The guilt that creeps in when you waste another day. That quiet voice that whispers you're wasting your life. It's cruel and it's loud. But even that doesn't get you moving. In fact, it does the opposite. The more guilt builds, the harder it becomes to start. And so the cycle tightens. Dream big, feel overwhelmed, do nothing, feel worse. Again and again, like a loop you don't know how to escape. But the scariest part isn't what people think of you. It's what you start to think of yourself. You begin to question your own identity. Am I actually motivated? Am I capable? Maybe I'm just pretending. You start to believe your own inaction defines you. That maybe you're not who you thought you were. And once that belief sets in, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you truly believe you're lazy, why would you even try? What most people don't realize is that ambition without direction is chaos. A mind without clarity is like a car with no brakes. It moves fast in circles, never landing anywhere. That's the real problem. It's not laziness. It's lack of control over your own energy. You have fire, but no structure to hold it. And without that structure, it burns out before it lights anything. So you retreat into comfort. Routines that are safe, predictable. You avoid the unknown, not because it isn't exciting, but because it feels too big to handle. And still, the dream stays alive somewhere in the background. Whispering. Waiting. You keep telling yourself you'll begin tomorrow. Or next week. Or when the timing feels right. But it never does. Because the timing will never feel right when the mind is this crowded. Some people spend years in this state. A silent war between who they are and who they want to become. Not because they're incapable, but because they were never taught how to deal with this internal chaos. It's not about pushing harder. It's about understanding what's happening inside. That's the real first step, seeing your own pattern clearly without judgment. Recognizing that this struggle doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Once you realize this, something shifts. You stop seeing yourself as the problem and start seeing the pattern as the problem. You understand that this is not laziness. It's paralysis caused by mental overload. And overload isn't a character flaw. It's a warning sign. It means your mind is working too hard in the wrong direction. that your ambition needs a new approach, not more pressure. The story you've been telling yourself, about being lazy, about not having what it takes, it's not true. It's just noise. The truth is buried underneath it, waiting to be uncovered. And when you finally understand that truth, the first real step becomes possible. Not a giant leap, not a perfect start, just a quiet decision to move even slightly toward what matters. That's when everything begins to change. Your brain doesn't want you to work hard. That may sound strange, but it's true. Beneath your thoughts and goals, there's something older, an ancient survival system quietly steering your choices. It's not interested in your success. It's interested in safety. It doesn't care about ambition. It cares about efficiency, energy, and avoiding anything that seems like a threat. And to your brain, effort feels like danger. It's not lazy. It's just wired for shortcuts. This survival mechanism is built deep into your biology. Thousands of years ago, energy was scarce. Every movement, every decision had to be calculated for survival. If you wasted energy on things that weren't essential, you risked your life. Today, you're not running from predators or searching for food in the wild, but your brain hasn't evolved out of that mindset. It still tries to protect you by doing the easiest thing possible. That's why lying down and scrolling your phone feels natural. That's why even simple tasks feel like heavy lifting. Your mind sees the long road ahead and immediately looks for a way around it. This internal wiring leads to what feels like self-sabotage. You set goals, make plans, and tell yourself you're ready, but when the moment comes to act, your brain slams the brakes. It whispers 1,000 reasons to wait. Tells you you're tired, unprepared, or that it's not the right time. And if you listen, it rewards you with comfort. A temporary relief from effort. But that relief has a cost. Every time you avoid doing the hard thing, your brain learns that avoidance is the safest route. And it will push you down that same path again and again. The real twist is this: your brain can't tell the difference between physical danger and emotional discomfort. To your nervous system, writing a resume or making a cold call feels just as threatening as facing a wild animal. So it shuts down motivation. It drags your focus toward things that feel good in the moment. Instant gratification becomes your default setting, not because you're weak, but because your brain believes it's helping you survive. But here's where it gets interesting. That same shortcut system can be flipped. The brain doesn't actually hate action, it just hates difficult action. So the key isn't to fight your instincts, it's to work with them. If a task feels too big, your brain resists it. But if you shrink it down, make it small, make it feel effortless, it slips past your internal alarm system. A 5-minute task doesn't register as a threat. It feels harmless. And once you start, something strange happens. Momentum kicks in. Action breeds more action. But you can't get there unless the first step feels safe. This is why so many people fail to build habits. They try to change everything at once. They create complex schedules, overhaul their routines, and expect their minds to follow along. But the brain doesn't work that way. It rejects anything that feels like a sudden, massive shift. It prefers familiarity, repetition, simplicity. If the goal feels too far away, too heavy to carry, your brain shuts down before you even begin. That's not weakness. That's wiring. Your task then isn't to force your way through resistance. It's to design around it. Instead of setting giant goals that scare your brain into stillness, break them down into fragments. Micro-actions. The kind so small they feel almost pointless. Because those are the actions your brain will accept without protest. And once they become part of your rhythm, you've hacked the system. You've made your ambition easier to digest. This doesn't mean you settle for less. It means you outsmart your own biology. You stop trying to sprint toward the finish line and start focusing on getting your shoes on. You understand that willpower is limited, but strategy is infinite. You begin to see laziness not as a personality trait, but as a signal, a sign that something in your approach needs to change. There's a certain power in this awareness. When you realize your mind isn't against you, just misunderstood, everything shifts. You stop blaming yourself for not being motivated. You stop shaming yourself for not feeling ready. You start looking for ways to reduce friction, to lower the barrier between where you are and where you want to be. You build environments that guide your choices automatically. You place reminders in your path. You automate what you can. Not because you're weak, but because you're being smart with how your brain actually works. The trap is believing motivation will show up one day and carry you into action. It won't. Not consistently. Motivation is unreliable. It's driven by emotion, which rises and falls like a wave. But systems? Systems don't care how you feel. They don't rely on energy or excitement. They operate quietly in the background, shaping your behavior without asking for permission. If you're ambitious but stuck, the answer isn't more inspiration. It's less resistance. It's designing a life that makes good decisions easier than bad ones. It's recognizing that your brain is not lazy, it's efficient. And once you learn to respect that efficiency, once you stop demanding perfect effort and start making action feel effortless, the game changes. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. or work 12 hours a day. You just need to make the first step easy enough to take. And once you do, your brain will follow. Not because it suddenly cares about your dreams, but because you made the path short enough to feel safe. And that's how you move forward, one small strategic win at a time. Ambition is supposed to be a gift, a spark that drives people to rise, to build, to chase something bigger than themselves. But when it lives inside someone who feels stuck, that spark becomes a curse. Not because the dream is wrong, but because it never gets to move forward. It just sits there, glowing in the background, reminding you of everything you're not doing. The longer it stays trapped, the heavier it becomes. The weight doesn't come from failure, it comes from not starting at all. You know what you want. You've imagined it more times than you can count. The version of yourself who made it, who stayed disciplined, who turned potential into proof. But then reality pulls you back. The gap between who you are and who you want to become feels wider every day. And with that gap comes a quiet kind of pain. Not loud, not dramatic, just constant. It shows up when you close another tab full of advice you didn't follow. It creeps in when you tell yourself you'll begin tomorrow, and deep down you know you won't. This is the hidden agony of the ambitious mind. On the surface, everything looks fine. But internally there's a battle happening every day. A part of you wants to move, to grow, to break through. But another part keeps hesitating, not because it doesn't care, but because it's afraid. Not of the goal, but of what it will take to get there. Every step looks exhausting. Every path feels uncertain. And so you wait. The dream stays alive but untouched. The desire never leaves, it just quietly turns into frustration. That frustration doesn't fade. It builds. Over time, it turns into self-doubt. You start to question whether you're really capable of doing the things you once believed in. You look around at others who seem to be making progress and wonder why you can't do the same. And then comes the worst part, the idea that maybe you're not meant for this after all. That maybe you're just one of those people who wants things but never gets them. That thought settles deep and it changes how you see yourself. And yet, you keep holding on to the ambition. It doesn't leave because it's real. That's the hardest part. You don't want to give up, but you're also not moving forward. You're stuck between the hunger for more and the fear of what it'll cost. The longer you stay there, the more you begin to resent your own ambition. What used to feel like a purpose now feels like a burden. Every unstarted task becomes proof that you're falling behind. Every missed opportunity becomes a reminder that you're wasting time. It's a painful place to be. Wanting to move, knowing you should, but feeling like something invisible is holding you back. That something isn't laziness. It's fear disguised as comfort. It's perfectionism, masked as procrastination. It's the belief that you have to do things right or not at all. So you wait for the right mindset, the right moment, the right plan. But none of those things arrive. And the longer you wait, the more you start to believe your ambition is the problem. But the truth is, ambition without action is like fuel without fire. It doesn't drive you. It suffocates you. It fills your mind with images of success but offers no path to get there. And when there's no path, your energy turns inward. It eats away at your confidence. It burns up in your thoughts instead of your work. You replay ideas in your head over and over, thinking that more time will make it easier. But time only adds more pressure. And pressure without progress becomes poison. You don't need more motivation. You need movement. Even the smallest step forward can break the cycle. But the hardest part is convincing yourself to start when your mind is stuck in loops of hesitation. It's not about working harder. It's about disrupting the pattern. You can't think your way out of this state. You have to act your way out. Because once you take even the tiniest action, everything changes. You shift from someone imagining the future to someone building it. The problem is never the size of your ambition. It's the silence that follows it. When action doesn't follow desire, your goals become ghosts. They haunt you. They show up at the worst times, Late at night, when you can't sleep, when you see others succeeding, when you look in the mirror and feel like you're behind. That's when it hurts the most. Not because the dream is dead, but because it's still alive and you're not giving it a chance to grow. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious. But ambition alone is not enough. It needs a rhythm, a system, a moment of courage, however small, to turn thought into effort. Without that, it will continue to turn on you. Not out of cruelty, but because it wasn't meant to sit still. It was meant to move. And so were you. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to free yourself from the belief that ambition alone is enough. You need to stop waiting for the right mindset and start creating it through motion. The curse only lifts when you act. Not perfectly. Not with confidence. Just with honesty. And when you do, the ambition that once weighed you down becomes the very thing that pulls you forward. There comes a moment where the inner conflict reaches its peak, not loud or explosive, but sharp and quiet. A point where the mind begins to tire from its own games. The constant overthinking, the endless delay, the suffocating weight of unused potential, it all begins to turn into something else. Not action. Not yet. But awareness. A clear, undeniable sense that things cannot stay the same. And this awareness is painful because it reveals what you've been trying to avoid. Your life as it is not aligned with the life you want. That realization isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it hits while brushing your teeth. Sometimes it sneaks up while you're scrolling, suddenly realizing another hour has vanished. It's not regret that hits first. It's recognition. A kind of quiet truth settling in. You are not doing what you were meant to do. You've become too comfortable with discomfort. You've learned how to survive in a state of mental noise. And though it hurts, you've accepted it as normal. But that moment of clarity, no matter how small, is powerful. It opens a crack in the cycle. A way out. Not a solution, but a signal. And for the first time in a long time, you stop blaming external things. You stop looking at the chaos of the world, the unfairness of life, the noise of other people's achievements. You turn inward. You ask a different question, not what's wrong with me, but what's really holding me back? And the answer is simple, even if it hurts to admit. You've made avoidance a habit. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because over time, not doing the thing started to feel safer than doing it and failing. You trained yourself to retreat at the edge of discomfort. You taught yourself that starting is dangerous. And your brain believed you. This is where the shift begins. Not with motivation, but with honesty. You start to realize that your biggest obstacle is not your circumstances. It's your behavior patterns. And patterns can be broken. Not all at once. Not with a dramatic transformation. But with something small, deliberate, quiet. Most people think they need to change everything to change anything. But that belief is the trap. It keeps you stuck, waiting for some perfect moment to become someone completely new. That moment never comes. What does come, though, is a chance. A small window of clarity when the resistance drops just enough for you to move. That window doesn't stay open for long. But it's all you need. The truth is, change doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like discomfort. It feels like forcing yourself to sit with the urge to escape and choosing not to. It feels like doing 5 minutes of the work instead of planning for 5 hours. It feels like lowering the bar, not to give up but to get in. Once you're in, everything else gets easier. Your brain is always looking for evidence. It builds its belief system based on what you repeatedly do. If all you do is plan and delay, your brain starts to believe that's all you're capable of. But if you begin to act, even in the smallest way, you send a new signal. You tell your brain, this is who I am now. And your brain listens. It always does. The shift from inaction to movement isn't loud. It's subtle. You may not feel different at first. You may even feel like you're faking it. But the more you act, the more real it becomes. You build trust with yourself again. You stop breaking the promises you make in your head. You stop needing motivation because your identity starts to shift. You're no longer just the person who wants to do things. You're becoming the person who does them. There will still be resistance. The mind doesn't unlearn patterns overnight. But now, instead of fearing it, you expect it. You stop seeing resistance as a wall and start seeing it as a signal, a sign that you're moving in the right direction. The mind resists what matters. That's how you know it's worth doing. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes part of your routine. Not because life got easier, but because you got stronger. You stopped waiting to feel ready. You stopped letting fear choose your direction. You realized that action doesn't have to feel good to be right. And more than anything, you understood that doing the work, even when it's small, even when it's imperfect, is the only way to quiet the noise in your head. You don't need a massive breakthrough. You need a pattern interrupt. A moment where you choose differently. Where you don't scroll. Where you don't delay. Where you don't let comfort win. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to be real. Because that's how you regain control, one moment at a time. When you change your response, you change your life. Not in theory. Not in a distant future. But in the now. This is the point where people either stay stuck or begin again. And if you've made it this far, the truth is clear. You're ready. Not for perfection. Not for a flawless path. But for something better than staying where you are. And that's enough. That's more than enough. There's a strange silence that follows action. The kind you only notice after doing something you've put off for too long. It isn't loud or overwhelming. It's quiet but powerful. Because in that silence, something changes. The noise in your head fades. The guilt stops echoing. The storm of thoughts that once kept you frozen begins to dissolve. And what's left is a kind of clarity that can't be faked. A feeling that, for the first time in a while, you did something that mattered. Most people never make it to this moment. They stay caught in the storm, circling the same doubts, recycling the same promises, hoping for a future that feels less heavy. But the future doesn't change on its own. It waits for you to do something different. It waits for proof. That proof doesn't have to be huge. In fact, it rarely is. It usually looks like a small task completed. A single step forward. A decision made while everything inside you is screaming to wait. This is how transformation actually begins. Not with motivation or sudden confidence, but with discomfort. With doing something before you feel like it. Before you've figured it all out. And once you do, a new door opens. Not outside of you, but within. Because now you've proven to yourself that resistance isn't the final word. You've proven that it's possible to act without perfect conditions. And that proof is more powerful than any goal, because it rewrites the story you've been telling yourself. That story, about being lazy, unmotivated, inconsistent, it begins to fall apart. Not because you said it wasn't true, but because you showed it wasn't. You replaced it with a different narrative. One built on action, no matter how small. And now, your brain starts to look for more opportunities to keep that story alive. It begins to crave movement, progress, even if just a little at a time. It starts working with you instead of against you. The truth most people avoid is that change never feels like change at first. It feels like resistance. It feels awkward, clumsy, slow. But underneath that mess is something rare, momentum. The kind that starts quietly, then builds without permission. Because once you've taken action, it's no longer about whether you can do it. You've already done it. Now the question becomes how often, how consistently, how deeply you're willing to keep going. The dangerous belief is thinking you need to do something massive to make a difference. You don't. What you need is to stop negotiating with yourself. Stop starting over. Stop waiting for the right version of you to show up and handle everything. That version isn't coming. The only version that matters is the one that moves despite the noise. The one that doesn't look the part but shows up anyway. The one that works with what it has, not what it wishes it had. You begin to see that laziness was never the enemy. It was a mask. A shield your mind used to protect you from uncertainty, from discomfort, from failure. But now that you've moved, that mask starts to crack. And behind it, you don't find weakness. You find potential. Untouched, unexplored, waiting. And for the first time, you feel like you're waking up. Not just to your goals, but to yourself. The real self, the one that's been buried under hesitation and fear. There's a moment when you realize how much time you've lost. Not just in days or weeks, but in moments you could have acted and didn't. That realization stings. But it also frees you. Because once you accept the cost of waiting, you no longer want to waste what's left. You stop obsessing over how far behind you are and start focusing on what's still possible. And the more you do, the more you realize how fast things can change. Not in years, but in weeks, sometimes even days, when effort is consistent. You no longer see discipline as punishment. You see it as self-respect. You see structure as freedom, not restriction. You begin to build a new environment. One that protects your energy, reduces distractions, and keeps your future in clear view. You're not chasing perfection. You're building patterns. You're not obsessed with speed. You're committed to showing up. And over time, that quiet consistency becomes louder than any excuse. This is the turning point. The place where the gap between ambition and action starts to close. Not all at once, but day by day. And as it does, you notice something unexpected. You don't hate the work as much. You don't dread the effort. You begin to crave it. Not because it's easy, but because it gives you back control. Every small task completed becomes a symbol, a reminder that you are not stuck, that you are not broken, that you are not your delay. The finish line may still be far away, but now it's real. It's reachable. And more importantly, the person walking toward it believes they belong there. Not because they're perfect, but because they refuse to keep standing still. You didn't need a miracle. You didn't need a radical transformation. All you needed was to begin. And you did. Now, every step forward becomes proof. Proof that you're not the same person you were. Proof that you're capable of more than you thought. And with each step, you get closer, not just to your goals, but to the version of yourself who never gave up. The version who chose effort over comfort, direction over distraction, and action over regret. That version was never far away. They were always waiting for you to begin. You don't need to be fixed. You need to be understood. Laziness isn't the enemy, misunderstanding your mind is. Now that you see the game for what it really is, you can stop blaming yourself and start designing a life that works for you. The mountain you dream of isn't too far. You just need to take one small step, today.